Hi, welcome to another episode of Yummy Data Science. In this episode, I'm going to be showing you how to group ICD diagnosis codes for analytics using two different approaches. We have talked about a number of approaches in the previous video, and in this episode, I'm going to be showing you how to implement the HCUP CCSR method of grouping ICD codes. And then I'm going to take a rough and dirty approach, which is taking the organization of the ICDs themselves. And since the chapters and the sub-chapters are a little bit too broad, I'm going to take the first three characters of the ICD. And I'm going to do this in my Google Colab notebook. And here's the name. And the input files are going to be the diagnosis files I had made from each setting. So recall, and I'm also going to give you the links below in the description. Recall that we had gone through inpatient encounters, outpatient encounters, professional encounters, and we had gathered by BenAID, which is the patient ID, and year, we had gathered all the ICD codes associated with those encounters. And this was a non-duplicative list by beneficiary ID and year. And so those three files are going to go in as input, and then we are going to have a lookup file of the CCSR, and our master categories file will contain beneficiary ID, year, and the truncated ICD code, as well as the CCSR description. And this is one way to turn ICD codes into diseases or morbidities, and it's a way to collapse them for analytical or reporting purposes. Okay, so without further ado, let's go to Google Colab. So here you can see that I have in my Google Colab, I have loaded in my drive, and now I am creating paths for my files that I'm going to be reading in. And I've also created a CCSR path. And so I downloaded it off the HCUP website. And then I played around with it a little bit in the CSV version. I eliminated some columns that I didn't need. And you will see shortly what this file looks like. In this cell, I'm simply reading them using pandas. And now I'm taking a look at my inpatient diagnosis file, and I'm going to confirm that all of the three files are in this record, in this layout: BenAID, year, ICD diag code, and ICD description. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I did this with the help of the AI, is for each diagnosis file, I'm going to create a column called ICD code trunk, which should be the first three characters of ICD diag code. And it gave me a little function. I do not need that function, but it's nice that it did. And then I can apply it 3 times. And if I had many other settings, I could do the same thing. Then I made sure I checked each file, and I made sure that I can see ICD CD trunk. So you can see the approach I'm using is I do something, then I check it. And I don't proceed without checking it. Here is the lookup CCSR file, and the original file that I downloaded from the CSV, it had a lot of other columns, and I took out everything just to make this file smaller. I took out everything except ICD code, and then the CCSR category code, and the description. And you can see how it groups ICDs into its various categories. And there are about 530 of them. So let's see how this works out. So this is a good practice because my lookup file is about 75,000 rows, and my diagnosis files, each of them could be very large if I had a lot of patients. Now, for this learning purposes, it is manageable, but best practices is, do your merges and lookups with the smallest possible data set. So what I'm doing is I am creating a unique list of ICD codes from my um, um, diagnosis by setting files. And I'm doing this by first concatenating all the data sets and then simply getting the unique of ICD code. And you can see that the prompt actually did this. So if you set up your prompt correctly, then it will give you correspondingly simple code to do that. So in unique ICD-DF, I have a unique list of ICD codes, and it's only 386. So I have a very small data set now that I need to look up. So here I'm looking it up. And one thing that's very important is once I've done the lookup, it's not, you don't want to just rush on. You want to pause and see, well, which values didn't merge properly. Since I'm interested in a left join, and left because I want to make sure that all the ICDs in my diagnosis files are covered. But now if I look at it, I can see that there are 50 codes that did not merge. Okay, so for right now, what I'm going to do is I am going to fill this description and the code with UNK, unknown. Okay, for right now. And later on, I'm going to take some steps to ameliorate my missing problem. And now I'm going to just good hygiene. I'm going to get a sense of counts. So I'm counting this, how many category codes, the frequency of category codes and descriptions. Okay, so now I've got my LUCCR, lookup for CCR, and it's got about 386 rows. I did a little bit more cleaning, and I ended up with the ICD diag code and the CCR description code, just two variables in this lookup file. Now I am ready to attach this lookup file with my original diagnosis code. And the original diagnosis files may be very large, but now the lookup is very small. So you see how I've simplified the problem. So I'm merging the lookup with the outpatient diagnosis. And then I want to see, are there any nulls? So I'm checking each file. And all of these are zeros, so it's good. Now, one thing I can do is from the diagnosis files that I just merged the description, CCR description to, I can drop the ICD diag code and the ICD description. I can drop those and I can drop the granularity. Because remember, the whole point is to go from patient year ICD codes to patient year categories. And actually, we have the ICD truncated too. So I drop the ones I don't want, and then I drop duplicates because I want to go I want to be rolled up. Okay. Now, this is an interesting approach, and I thought about it before I implemented it. You can do it two ways. I want to tag which category the diagnosis came from. Did it come from outpatient? Did it come from inpatient? Did it come from all three? So I'm setting up these flags for outpatient, inpatient, and professional. And now I'm going to merge the three files with each other. And it's going to be an outer join. And I know that when the flag is missing, then it should be recoded to no. Okay, so any one join, like here I am merging outpatient with inpatient and it's outer, and then I'm going to be recoding, and then I'm doing this with master categories and doing professional. And now I'm going to recode the the null values of the flags with N. And the interesting thing is here, the AI was giving me, when I said replace null values of these flags with N, it was giving me the replace in place. So, and that Python was giving me an error on that. So I'm just trying to show you how to code with AI. Then I just added in a phrase with a technique that's compatible in 3.0. So you see how I've kind of figured out ways to work with AI and have it generate code for me. I'm not saying this is the best way or the most elegant way, but it is one way, and it is a way of empowering yourself. Now, I've half a mind to go through this code again and really put my programmer's hat on and really do a good job. But I think it shows the power of the AI in getting the code written and laid out. And then you have your prompts as the self documentation of your analytical process. And now I'm doing some checks because I want to know how many row counts there are in the CCSR category description, ICD trunk, and in both. And from looking at the row counts, I'm discovering that the value of U and K is very high. It's not, so if I just do this, go here, and if I do counts, you can see U and K is pretty high. And I don't like that. I think I can I can pare down these U and Ks. So I'm going to try to do that. And the approach I took on that is right here. So first I printed out, well, show me show me the rows where category description is U and K, and it showed it to me. And then I was able to see what the pattern was from the ICD code trunk variable. I was able to see what the three letter combination was. And then what I figured out, I looked at ICD10.com, and most of them lay between this S00T88, which happens to be injury or poisoning and others. So what I did is I replaced the value of UNC with injury or poisoning or others. And I want to just go over how this approach of this mask. So basically what I'm doing with mask, and it's a nice Python approach, you're creating, if you have a complex condition, instead of doing it in one fell swoop, you can do it in 2 steps, and then you can make sure that each of those steps is correct. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a Boolean mask column. It is 1 or a 0, true or false, and it is true if these conditions are true. So ICD code truncated has to be between S00 and T88, and the master category has to be U and K. So once I did that, then I can easily use the loc method, .loc method, to recategorize it. And now I'm going to check again because I did something to the data set. So I'm going to check again, and I'm satisfied that this is working out correctly. And now I'm ready to write my master categories CSV file. And now I have a way to do cohort analysis at not just at an ICD level, but at a higher grouping level. And what I'm going to try to do with this is I'm going to try to create patient journeys of patients with diabetes. So that's next. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you learned from it. Thank you for listening.